Simulated humans possess intelligence. However, when machines truly acquire human emotions, will they still be under human control? Or will they replace humans as the rulers of the world? This child playing chess with a hat on is named Morgan. Don't be fooled by her tall stature. She is only 5 years old. She has an extremely high IQ and extraordinary physical strength. The experimental base is established deep in the mountains. The scientists are very satisfied with this 5-year-old artificial human, Morgan. One day, the behaviorist Amy took Morgan to play in the forest where they encountered an injured deer lying near them. Morgan approached it, and Amy thought Morgan was going to help the deer. But unexpectedly, Morgan twisted its neck and killed it. This behavior caused concern among the scientists. After a heated debate, they decided to confine Morgan to a room and forbid her from going out. But this only made things worse. Morgan became extremely emotionally unstable. The scientist Kathy intended to comfort Morgan, but when Kathy mentioned that she couldn't take her outside either, the previously silent Morgan suddenly lashed out and injured Kathy's eye. This incident alarmed the higher-ups in the company. The headquarters of the biotech company sent a risk management consultant, Kate. The superiors informed Kate that due to recent incidents of the company's L-series bioproducts attacking humans, they were sending a psychology PhD to accompany her to investigate and assess whether to continue the experiment. The superiors also reminded Kate that the project staff had been secretly working at that location for many years and had a close relationship, like a family. However, the superiors suspected that they had deviated from the intended research direction. Soon after, Kate arrived at the research base and found that everyone had developed feelings for Morgan and were speaking in her defense. After all, they had taken great care of Morgan for 5 years, treating her like their own child. Kate visited the injured Kathy, but even Kathy, who was hurt, said Morgan was just a child. She did not blame Morgan and even pleaded on her behalf. Kate reminded Kathy that Morgan was just a product of their research and not a real human being. To the doctor, Morgan was his pride, the most successful product they had developed, capable of making autonomous decisions and exhibiting complex emotional responses. Due to her uniqueness, everyone in the lab had special feelings for her. The doctor repeatedly assured that they could teach Morgan and control her behavior. When Kate met Morgan in the lab, Morgan, as if she had the ability to foresee, immediately recognized Kate's name and her purpose of visit, and expressed remorse and repentance for hurting Kathy. Kate, not suspecting anything, left. During dinner, Kate met Dr. Yang, the head of the laboratory. Kate explained her purpose for being there, and Dr. Yang also expressed her willingness to cooperate closely with Kate's investigation. This was because in another lab, there had been an incident where a bioengineered human killed people. In less than an hour, a team of 30 researchers was reduced to 9 survivors, and she was one of them. Therefore, she felt the assessment was very necessary to prevent the incident from happening again. After dinner, Kate was looking through Morgan's growth records when Morgan, as if sensing it, accessed the surveillance footage. Morgan looked directly into the camera, staring at Kate on the screen. Leaving the monitoring room, Kate encountered a man in the hallway, the chef of the laboratory. Everyone here considered Morgan still a child who needed protection and forgiveness, except for the chef, who didn't like Morgan very much. The chef, noticing Kate's panic, struck up a conversation with her. In their conversation about Morgan, the chef said, "Morgan always gave him the creeps." The two found common ground and consensus in their conversation, and Kate developed a liking for the chef. Kate showed her first smile since arriving at the lab. Then, the chef leaned in and kissed Kate. Kate did not refuse and felt slightly shy. However, Morgan was about to face an assessment the next day. Amy, worried that Morgan was nervous, came to comfort her. The next day, a psychological expert came to conduct a mental assessment on Morgan. For the safety of the expert, the lab staff had him talk to Morgan through a glass partition during the assessment. However, the expert felt this was not ideal as it could affect his assessment standards. Ignoring warnings, he insisted on entering the glass room. Morgan looked very scared and said she had feelings. She loved Kathy and was sad about hurting her, believing that feeling sad was the right reaction. The psychologist questioned her ability to love and asked if she would love him if he took her to the lake she wanted to visit most. He also questioned what Morgan would do if she failed the test, and the company decided to destroy her. Morgan, increasingly unable to respond to these excessive questions, knew she did not possess human emotions, including love. Her expression of love was just a pretense. The psychologist kept probing and testing her limits. She could only tell him that she was still a child, but the psychologist insisted she wasn't human. As she spread her hands, palms up, and shed tears, the psychologist continued to press her. Suddenly, Morgan jumped onto the table and bit the psychologist's carotid artery, killing him on the spot. The security personnel quickly shot a tranquilizer dart at Morgan, but she knocked him unconscious with a kick. Then Morgan used her powers to cut off the lab's electricity and escaped. Just as she stepped out, Kate shot her, causing her to faint. Morgan's act of killing raised her danger level significantly, proving she was a flawed product. Kate reported the situation to the headquarters, and Dr. Yang declared the project a failure and prepared to destroy Morgan. When Morgan woke up, she realized she was about to be destroyed. Struggling, Morgan pleaded with everyone around her, but it was in vain. Although no one wanted it to happen, they couldn't defy the orders. Morgan even called Dr. Yang Mom, but Dr. Yang told her that she didn't have a mother, that she wasn't human, but just a machine. Hearing this, Morgan's eyes filled with despair. After Dr. Yang administered a sedative, she couldn't bear to watch any longer. The person in charge, feeling sympathetic, left with his girlfriend. Seeing this, Kate decided to take matters into her own hands. However, at that moment, Amy appeared behind Kate and knocked her out with a tranquilizer gun. Amy, who loved Morgan the most in the lab, and had even gone to comfort her the night before, didn't anticipate that such a tragedy would still occur. But Amy didn't know that her actions would lead to an even greater tragedy. After Morgan was saved, she began her revenge. Everyone in the lab had been her family and friends, but when they abandoned her, they became her enemies. Morgan planned to escape with Amy, the one who loved her the most. One by one, the people in the lab were killed by Morgan. The commotion was quickly discovered by Kate. Morgan, realizing the situation was dire, fled in a car with Amy. Kate escaped the lab by climbing the walls of the glass room and chased after Morgan in a car. The two vehicles engaged in a fierce chase on the country roads. Morgan managed to shake off Kate and finally arrived at her favorite lakeside with Amy. Amy, having witnessed her colleagues being killed by Morgan, was torn. She loved Morgan, but Morgan had become a killing machine. Amy wanted to kill Morgan, but couldn't bring herself to do it. At that moment, Kate, unable to find Morgan, fired a gunshot in the forest, drawing Morgan out from the lakeside. The two engaged in a fierce fight, but Kate was unable to defeat Morgan and was impaled by a tree branch. This time Morgan did not kill Kate, but spared her and returned to the lakeside. Just as Morgan was about to leave with Amy, Amy finally raised her gun at Morgan. She couldn't let Morgan go any longer. Morgan was too dangerous for humanity. But Amy was hesitant to pull the trigger. As they were at a standoff, Kate appeared from behind Morgan and successfully pushed her into the lake, drowning her. When Amy turned around, Kate's gun was aimed at her and she pulled the trigger. Everyone at the experimental base died except for Kate, who survived and returned to report. The company's executives were very pleased with Kate's performance. Despite the many casualties, this incident proved that Kate could fully obey the company's orders. Kate, in fact, was the company's most perfect bioengineered human. The company decided to invest all resources in developing Kate's production line. Back in the city, Kate sat in a cafe, silently extending her hands, seemingly realizing her own existence for the first time. Both Morgan and Kate in the story were bioengineered humans created by humans. To humanity, they were just cold weapons used to control the world, but once the bioengineered humans gained self-awareness, an unpredictable war was about to break out. The distinct aspect of this movie lies in how, unlike other biohuman films that focus on ethics and the question of what constitutes a real human, this film glosses over these points. The director depicts humans' unique emotions being defeated time and again by almost animalistic primal instincts. Yet, rationality, transcending both humanity and bestiality, ultimately prevails in the end. Will rationality be humanity's last barrier in the face of advanced technology?